here's your host, Chris Cooper.
Hello, this is Chris Cooper, and a big welcome to the Business Elevation Show on Voice America with yet another fantastic guest today. I'm very excited to talk to Steve Sims. You're going to really enjoy this. We're going to talk about Go for Stupid. I'll explain what that is in just a moment. I'd also like to say a thank you to Aaron Schmuckler, who introduced me to Steve. Actually, dropped me a note. I've interviewed Aaron a long time ago, and he's recommended my guest today, saying he's absolutely brilliant. You need to have him on your show. So we have a habit of sharing great guests with some of my podcast connections, and I know Steve is going to be one of those today. I'd also like to say a thank you to Neil Lawton. Neil Lawton is a great friend of mine. He's led 78 expeditions around the globe. He's an adventurer, but also a very successful entrepreneur. Sold a construction company to Balfour Beatty a number of years ago. But what happened a couple of weeks ago was that my guest was taken ill. I'm hoping she's well, and apparently taken off in an ambulance. So not great for her. But what we had to do last minute, we had to pull a show out of the bag. And I've been speaking at Neil Lawton's business support group event in Brighton in England just the day before, and decided to bring Neil in to interview me about energy in business. So thank you for the feedback on that show. That was a couple of weeks ago. And then last week, I think we had Molly Harvey on the show. I was actually in Scotland at a wedding. So hope you enjoyed listening to Molly, because she's absolutely brilliant. So I want to introduce you to my guest today, Steve Sims. He's over in the United States, but he comes from the United Kingdom. You'll be able to tell through his voice very shortly. And he's dubbed the real life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine. And what he has been able to do is turn people's wildest dreams into reality. He's the best-selling author of BLUEFISHING, The Art of Making Things Happen, and Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. And as I say, he's masterminded some of the most incredible experiences. He's worked with Sir Elton John. He's orchestrated private dinners in Florence with Andrea Bocelli, serenading his guests. And it's going to be really interesting to understand how on earth he's managed to achieve these kind of activities and achieve these significant goals that would make other people think it's completely and utterly impossible. He's co-founder of the leading community for creative disruptors, and he's host of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast. And he's just a true inspiration, really, to many people in his network. So a big welcome today to my guest, to Steve Sims.
Good morning. How are you? That's quite a lead in, actually. There's a lot to live up to.
Well, definitely. Well, you've done it. So you've done it. You know you have. So we're going to have a great chat about how you've done it. And whereabouts in the United States are you?
I've actually just woke up for you. I'm actually in Los Angeles, California. So I've woke up and I'm on my first coffee.
Oh, well done. Well, it's getting towards the end of the day here. 3 o'clock actually, because of clock change difference between us at the moment. But great to talk to you, and thank you for getting up for us. It's appreciated. I know you've had quite a week because you've been hosting events this week.
Yeah, we got a group called Sims Distillery, and we had a group that kicks off with a VIP party on Sunday. And we had the thing about our events is we don't tell anybody who's coming. In fact, we don't even tell them the location until 2 days before. When we say that there's an event going on in Nashville, New York, Miami, and we move around America. In fact, we're coming to England in September. We always just go, hey, 2 days in this city. And then anyone that signs up, we tell them what hotel to take. And then we just bring in like some incredible people. We had Jay Abraham, Perry Belcher, Jason Fladlin. We had a former gang member. We've had the head of Instagram. So we have all of these crazies come in. But the real surprise, the real power, and we were talking about it earlier with the attendees, is we focus on the attendees, then we focus on the educators. So if you can make sure that you focus on the right people in the room, then you build a community. And at the end of the day, I think in today's world of everyone looking at AI, the real word everyone should be focusing on is community.
And do you always host these events in distilleries?
We actually, the reason we came up with the word distillery was because people know I like an old fashioned, and my private secret events are called speakeasies. So when we were trying to think of a word for the community, we looked at what a distillery is. It takes raw grain and wheat and oats and just raw ingredients from dirty areas and purifies them into 100% proof. So someone said, you're distilling, you're taking the raw ingredients of an entrepreneur and just making them absolute fire as they go out the other end. So Sims Distillery just came out. But you're right, I have actually always thought maybe I should buy a distillery and just always host them in this distillery. So who knows, if it happens, it's because you thought about it.
Well, you're taking back to my pub days and working with clients with distilleries. In fact, with one of them, we helped them to create a new brewery, which was brilliant, and visitor centre and nature reserve, and it was really cool. So tell us a bit. You've clearly got an English accent. Tell us a little bit about what life was like growing up for you, and what was the inspiration that took you away from, I believe it was London.
So, I'd love to be able to say it was an inspiration. It was more like an aggravation. I grew up in the 80s when we didn't have Instagram to point out how inadequate our life was. So, I was on a bricklaying company with my dad. I left school at the age of 15, was raised up in an area called Basingstoke. So, not exactly living the dream. Moved on up to London to try and find some better opportunity. Ended up on the building sites up there. And I knew how to work hard. I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, landing on the building site at 7, going home at 8 o'clock. You've been rained on, you've been cut up, you've been bruised, you've been bashed. I knew how to put the effort in, but I never had any money. And this used to annoy me. And again, we didn't have YouTube or Wi-Fi or anything like that. But I knew there had to be something better, because as I'm going to work by train or getting a lift, other people are driving nice cars and, hanging out in nice offices. And of course, it always looks like a nice office, but when you're being rained on, that's like paradise. So I had a focus and an aggravation married with a curiosity. How do you have the life I want? I know how to work hard, but how come you have it? So I literally started hanging out in pubs, and then I started hanging out in wine bars. Do you remember when wine bars suddenly started opening up? But this seemed to create, these people looked posher than me. I was always riding around on a shitty ass motorbike. But I used to start hanging out in those kind of locations to try and hang around with affluent people, to try and work out, well, how come you're rich and I'm not? And I started getting jobs like, working in insurance, yacht charters, air charter, all of these kind of jewelry firms, trying to find a way of getting into that world, and just learn how to get fired a lot. For any of you that can't see me, for one, you're very fortunate. I'm 250 pound of ugly biker. It's as simple as that. So I didn't have the kind of warm, fuzzy look that would attract you when talking about yacht charters or fine jewelry. And if I was an insurance salesman, I was knocking on people's door at 8 o'clock at night. That didn't go too well either. But I wanted to get myself in the right room. I ended up getting a trainee stockbroker position in Hong Kong. They flew me over to Hong Kong. I lasted 1 day and they fired me because they realized I had no idea about finance and I was just too way off the grid to be able to be trained. So they fired me. So I'm now in Hong Kong, no job, no money, but they had promised to pay me for 3 months because they'd got me over there, and I was allowed to use the company apartment for 3 months. So I thought, right, I'm in Hong Kong now. There's got land of opportunity. This was in the early 90s. I've got to be able to find something. And I ended up finding a job on the door of a nightclub because I was big and ugly, and that's what God built me to be. So, I was the guy whose job description was to thump people. But I started, and this is the thing about entrepreneurs, and I know you're going to be able to relate to this. As entrepreneurs, we look at opportunities and we go, was this done to me or was it done for me? And I noticed being on the door of the nightclub, I had 2 other meatheads with me. They just wanted to see if they could go home with a hot girl that night and avoid as much blood off that shirt as they could. For me, I had a podium view of human interaction. And we were touching on this earlier. I was able to see how real affluents talked to each other versus the fake affluence. Those people that go, oh, yes, I'm going off here next week. Oh, yeah, my company just made $14 billion. All that shit. And I was able to kind of get through that. And those people I wanted to talk to, I started saying things like, look, the bar shuts at 12, but if you want to stay open till 1, I'll do you a closed door. You know what I was like working on the bar. I started doing that. And then I started getting them into other clubs. And then I started getting them into galas. And if there was a release of a new car or a new movie, I was getting them into those. And I was becoming the Google before Google of Hong Kong nightlife. But I only wanted to do it with affluent people, not because I wanted to swan down a red carpet, but I wanted to be able to have breakfast or lunch with you the following day and go, hey, did you enjoy the party? Yeah, I loved it, Steve. Hey, I've been meaning to ask you, how come you're so wealthy? You know, and I've always said that I was podcasting people before podcasting existed. Now, I went from getting people into nightclubs in Hong Kong. I then moved down to Bangkok, Geneva, moved over to Palm Beach, just following the money and following the clients, then resided here in Los Angeles. I never wanted the red carpet life. I wanted to be able to interview and communicate with powerful people. And I would do it by giving you value, whether it's getting you into a nightclub or getting you 10,000 people to turn up to your concert. If I could do that, I had your attention. And I ended up working all the way through. And I've worked quite openly with every major event you can think of in the planet. There's not a red carpet event that I never had my fingers in over 25 years. Ended up working with Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Elton John, just worked with some of the most powerful people that you know, and a lot of powerful people you've never heard of from around the planet. And every single one of them got asked the same question. How do you see success? How do you speak to people? How do you focus on relationships, and what's important to you in your life? And I've been interviewing these people to get that information. And then you mentioned my books, BLUEFISHING and Go for Stupid. Just out of a whim and out of a position, I got offered, hey, would you like to write a book? And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of fun. Wrote BLUEFISHING. And by the way, anyone thinking of writing a book, it ain't fun. It's actually hard work.
It's really hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first thing that woke me up and kicked me in the ass. But I didn't expect it to do anything. I just thought, oh, this would be cool. You know, a bricklayer from London, now he's an author. But it took off and it became a bestseller and translated all over the planet. And now I speak, train, teach, coach, and get to do all the fun stuff of everything that I've learned, taking people and disrupting them into operating at a higher standard.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing story, and I love actually that you're your authentic self, because actually also that I think there's so much bullshit that people will spin you trying to be somebody different.
Oh, yeah.
I had an event last week with my Elevation Collective community, and we had Howard Bihar was the international president of Starbucks, and took it from 300 people to 200,000. And he talks about wearing your own hat, being yourself, not trying to be somebody else. And what I love about your story is that you realized in those bars and clubs in Hong Kong, you started to emerge from you a superpower that was fixing it for people.
Yeah, and
it went from there.
I also you hit on something which I think a lot of people are missing today. And I would love to tell you that I knew the secret sauce and I discovered it. And hey, it's all me because I'm a genius. But you know me for 5 seconds and you'll realize that would be BS. I didn't know how to act with the people that I was trying to act with. And most people that are successful started off by not being successful. And most people that are successful have been bankrupt, broke, lied to, ripped off, sued. They've had those scars throughout their life. So it's never a smooth and easy journey. So they've seen the uglier side of life. You know, you may run a successful company, but you may have a bunch of employees that have stolen your idea and built up a competitor. So now you're seeing the dark side of people that you used to hang out with at a barbecue. So when I was speaking to people at the time, and again, if you can think back to the 90s, Do you remember whenever there was anything shrouding affluence, whether it be a car dealership, an art gallery, a jewelry store, a restaurant, you would walk in and there was almost this intimidation. The maitre d' would be like, yes, how can I help you?
Yeah.
You know, and, oh, good afternoon, sir. Oh, how are you? We've always said jokingly, the richer you get, the more British you get. So whenever these people work in these kind of environments, they put on this like fake British accent. But me, I didn't know how to do that. I hadn't become smart enough to realize, oh, that's what you got to do. So I'm walking up to people going, hello, mate, how you doing? What do you need? You need this? Right, let me sort that out. And I would just do. And I didn't have any airs and graces. I didn't have any fancy stuff. You know, I've only had a few cars in my life. I still ride motorcycles. I don't have a car. I still turn up as me. But here's the trick I discovered, and I discovered it like 7 years into me being me. When you show up as the solution to somebody's pain or problem, they do not care what you sound and look like.
Yeah.
You know, when you wake up in the morning, you got a headache, you go to the bathroom cabinet, you pull out the headache tablets. You don't care what the logo looks like. You don't care what the packaging looks like. You don't care what the taste looks like. You care it works. And if it works, you'll go back again. So me, I was the solution at the time to people's nightlife for the best nightclubs. As it went on, I had people going, hey, I want to have an amazing dining experience in Florence, and I want to play piano with someone amazing, or I want to hang out at a red carpet. You know, these requests became bigger and bigger. But as long as I became the solution to their pain or problem, then I didn't have to worry about, well, is he wearing a shirt and tie? You know, does he look slim? Does he, does he own that car? And how many people today enter into a conversation with a persona? You know, oh, look at my car. Oh, look, oh yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. I was actually just speaking to my pilot of my private jet. They put all that bollocks on.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. They just care that you are adding value to their life. And that can be as simple as making someone smile. I've got a friend of mine in England. I've had him for absolutely ever. He's not rich, quite the opposite. But he challenges me and he's funny as hell. And he adds value to my life. I absolutely love the guy. So I can't wait to spend time with him. And there'll be other people that I want to spend time with because they're just launching a project. They've just raised $14 billion. And I want to know, how are you managing that? You know, how do you manage the expectations? How do you sleep at night? So, you know, it's all down to are you bringing value to the relationship? And if you do, don't worry about how your hair is that morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess with people, is as long as you're adding, people are always looking, aren't they, for people who can add value or, save money by improving, making things more efficient. But actually, you get paid more if you add value, and the more value you add, potentially, the more remuneration you can earn if remuneration is important to you. But it is about value, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily get that.
Well, we're in a bribery society, and it's a case of like, oh yeah, keep shopping here because you'll earn these points. Keep spending this credit card, you'll earn those points. That's not loyalty. I've never had to say to one of my friends, hey, come on out and have dinner with me and you'll earn 5 points. So we're in a world today where we're actually trying to bribe people to make the decision. But when you are of value, and here's the weird thing, if you focused on value today, everyone would be buying a Kia. No one would be buying a Ferrari. No one would be buying a Porsche or a Rolls Royce. We'd be buying a bog standard Ford or Kia.
Yeah.
Because those are great, reliable cars.
Yeah.
But when you look at aspiration, when you look at refinement, when you look at luxury, when you look at all of those elements, you can charge what you like. You look at the Hermes bags, you're looking at $10 to $50 to $100,000 for a handbag. So it really does. When you start focusing on the value and the aspiration, then the arguing over the price tag, that goes straight out of the way. And I've always said to people, especially in my coaching group, if you ever come down to arguing with a prospect over the price of something, that's because you failed to demonstrate the value. And even in luxury goods, if I give you a Cartier ring or I give you a ring of equal status in a carrier bag that maybe stinks of yesterday's fish and chips,
yeah,
value one over the other.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot in that, and I think you failed to demonstrate the value. I think that's really an important golden nugget from this conversation so far. Is that if we fail to demonstrate the value, then we don't get paid what we think something is worth. So
Yep.
that's where you've got to get smart, I guess. So how does it stack up then with all this marketing bullshit that we often see for products that maybe don't add value? What's your take on that? I mean, how do you authentically market what you do such that it demonstrates the value, if that makes any kind of sense?
So it makes a lot of sense, and I laugh because I'm just about to upset my son. I own a marketing firm called Sims.media, and I wish I didn't. It's because we have to focus on media. Now, media changes. You know, if I had said to you back in, say, 2000, I had said to you, hey, Chris, do you want a front page article in Forbes? Do you want a front page article in this magazine or on this website? You'd have probably bit my arm off, because front page media back in 2000 was something to be relished. Everyone wanted it. It was a beautiful thing. If I'd have said to you in the year 2000, hey, Chris, I can get you on a great podcast, you may have scratched your backside and gone, what the hell's a podcast? Yeah. But now, if I said to you today, hey, do you want that article? No one's reading articles. No one's reading print magazines anymore. You know, if I'd have said to you, I could have got you on the breakfast TV show in 2000, again, you'd have bit my arm off. But with all streaming services, no one's watching morning TV anymore.
Yeah.
So media changes like the ocean. And so you've got to stay on top of what's a good medium, what do people want to get involved, what are people consuming today. But also the question that people fail to ask, and I'm going to give you a 101 lesson in marketing here. You've got to understand not only where are the fish feeding, where are people consuming their information, but what mood are they in?
Right.
And that's where people go wrong. What mood are they in? Now, in America at the moment, we're in a political year. So every single day, the radio adverts, the internet adverts, the adverts you're seeing on TV, it's all political. Did they really say that? Is that really going to, you need to vote for me? Oh, no. We're in a world today where we've got wars, famine, confusion, lies, and distraction. So we're in a world today where we are straight off the bat, just straight the second we wake up, we're cynical. And a lot of people with that cynicism, we naturally hate and are suspicious with everything that comes along. It could be a brilliant idea that's going to answer every single one of your problems, but quite simply, there's a lot of noise going out there and you're just trying to sell me something. Okay. So in today's world of marketing, two things happen. One, you go over the top. Oh, did you know that Kim Kardashian buys this? Did you know that you can look 20 years younger with this? There's a lot of that kind of elusive, unachievable marketing that goes on. And it's a lot of bullshit and lies. Be a millionaire in 1 month. We know it's all crap, but a lot of people buy into that, okay? Because we're also, while we're skeptical, we're hungry for the right answer. We're pack animals. We actually naturally just want to kind of get our problem solved. And if this person's over here and he's leaning up against a jet that he doesn't own, well, he must know the answer, and we do that. I said to you earlier, I made a statement to you earlier that the internet has made stupid people stupider.
Yeah.
And we're getting too much of that coming at us. So if you want to market properly today, ignore the word authenticity, focus on the word brevity.
Okay.
Now, if I say to you, take this tablet, it'll cure your headache. You don't need any other kind of marketing. So in the world of today, the best marketing in the planet today is short and sharp. Have a Coke and a smile, okay?
Yeah.
Drive forward. You just look at your marketing, your messaging, and ask yourself, is it short and sharp? And here's a little keyword that a lot of people are going to want to write down. There is a huge difference between being easy to understand and impossible to misunderstand. Are you impossible to misunderstand?
And so you're saying it's better to be easy or impossible?
You've got to be impossible to misunderstand.
Possible.
If I tell you something and you've got to think about it, I've lost you.
Yeah.
I've got to make it impossible to misunderstand.
But you've also
I've got to make sure sorry?
You've got to do that with brevity, though, haven't you, as well?
And that's why everything I've just quoted to you is short and sharp.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you've got to be, we say on our things, you know, that, removing the confusion from your brand. You know, you've got to make sure whatever you're doing is just short and sharp, to the point. Because when something's to the point, here's the key: you get to make a decision. Otherwise, the person's guessing. And if they're confused, they won't give you that credit card.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes an enormous amount of sense. We're coming up to a commercial break right now. But I've taken a lot from this conversation already. Removing confusion from your brand. We need to think about ensuring that we're adding value. We need to cut out the bullshit. Loving this. It's a great conversation. So after the break, we're going to talk more about going for stupid. So why should we go for stupid? What does it really mean? Well, here's some examples as well from Steve, where he did the most, what seemed impossible to set up for a client to play with Elton John and to have Andrea Bocelli singing at their dinner party. We'll find out a little bit about that and what enables us to achieve these ridiculous goals when we set out to do them. So we'll be back again with you in just a couple of minutes. Do join us after the break.
You are tuned into the Business Elevation Show with your host, Chris Cooper. If you have a question or comment about our show, please direct your emails to chris@chriscooper.co.uk. That's chris@chriscooper.co.uk. Now back to Chris Cooper.
Hi, I'm with Steve Sims, and I'm excited about this second half of this conversation because I've loved the first half. And I want us to, Steve, I think what would be great is maybe if you could just share with us a couple of your favorite examples where you went for stupid. Maybe you could just explain what in your words, what going stupid is. Give us a couple of examples. Then maybe what we can do after that is let's talk about some of the methodology then for going for stupid. So if you could start off by what is going for stupid in your words, and then maybe share a couple of examples that you're particularly proud of.
So let's do that in reverse.
Okay.
Let's get people's attention first, and then they'll stick around to understand how and why they need to be doing it.
Oh, let's do that. That's fine.
I've done some pretty wacky things. That's why Forbes and Entrepreneur ended up calling me the real life Wizard of Oz. I had a client that wanted to do a dining experience in Florence that was pretty cool. That was what he asked me. That was the entirety of the request. We could have shoved him in a really good restaurant and had the chef come out and maybe even taken him back into the kitchen to make their own desserts, something like that. But we wanted to see how far we could take that request. So we ended up closing down the Accademia di Galleria, which is the famous museum in Florence that houses Michelangelo's David. And at 9 o'clock at night, in a completely quiet museum, we set up a table of 6 at the feet of David. We had a string quartet. And then when they started their main course, I brought in Andrea Bocelli to serenade them. We had a client that jokingly wanted to play piano with a superhero, so we arranged that with Elton John. I had another client that wanted to go backstage because he wanted to meet the rock band Journey because they had been so instrumental in his early years. We thought, that's a little bit lame, so we ended up getting him pulled up on stage, and he was actually a singer. So, we knew he knew what he was doing, but we got him pulled up on stage, and he actually sang 4 tunes with the entire band live in San Diego, and is deemed as the shortest lead singer of Journey in their history. We've done drum lessons with Guns N' Roses. We've done walk the red carpets from everything from Macau Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, the Grammys, the Oscars. We worked for Elton John for 8 years in his Oscar party. And our goal has always been to take your request and then see how far we can push it. Those are some of the kind of like, the little tidbits and headlines that we've done. And the whole philosophy was that if we if we complete what you've asked for, then we've actually completed a transaction. And when you complete a transaction, there's no loyalty, there's no imagination. There's no reason for you to stick to that person. You go and go, hey, I want this toilet roll. Oh, I'll have that toilet roll this week because it's cheaper. You start comparing like for like. When you start comparing things, it always comes down to the price. What we wanted to do was we wanted to be different, because here's another little annoying thing for you to write down. Different is better than better. We don't want to be comparable to anybody. We want to be in a world of our own where it's simply what we do, what we set the rules, and where we help. And what we did was we took your imagination, added some fire to it, and then achieved it when you dared not to. And there was nothing better than clients coming to us going, I've got this dream, but I know it's impossible. Because the second you tell yourself it's impossible, you're right. And so we actually banned that word from our office. So people would come to us and go, hey, I want to go backstage and meet the rock band Journey. I want to walk the catwalk at the New York Fashion Week. And we'd be like, okay, we've had this request. How can we make it stupid? Now, here's the philosophy, and here's more importantly, the tactics. Chris, if I say to you, what's your business goals over the next couple of years? And you tell me what they are. And I go, okay, do they sound impossible? And you go, yeah, let's break through the impossible. Impossible stands for I'm possible. Let's break. If you start talking like that, and I'm looking at your face now, it's all very feisty, isn't it? We're all very fighty.
Yeah.
But if I say to you, is that enough? Let's go for stupid. Let's play with this. What ridiculous goal can we put together? Again, I've just looked at your face and you just started to smile and smirk. When you fight anything, you've got a limited ability to contain that and sustain that. Okay. You can only, that's why boxers only do 3-minute rounds and 4-minute rounds. You can only fight for a certain period before you get tired, but you can play forever. And the second you start taking your goals and you play with them, then the neurons become childlike and they start exploding and you start thinking of weird, crazy things. And the biggest child we've got in the planet at the moment is a guy called Elon Musk. I want to go into space. Now, how do I do it? And in today's world, we look at facts, we look at figures, we look at strategies, we look at structures, but we don't look at dreams. And anyone that we revere today, whether it be Edison, Henry Ford, Walt Disney, Elon Musk, they all had dreams and then just worked out, okay, what structure do I need to achieve those dreams?
Yeah.
But today's world, and I said to you a little while ago about know the mood of your room, know the mood of your audience, okay? In today's world, people are very noisy. And I'm going to say this, poor people are very noisy. Now, before you cancel me, and if you do, not really fussed, I mean poor mentality. Those people that would rather spend all day moaning and whinging and complaining and excuses. Look, until your excuses can pay your mortgage, they are a waste of time. So everyone wants to moan about something. Why don't you focus on doing something about it?
Yeah.
And whenever someone does something, look at Elon Musk. Let's pick on Elon for a start, okay? Elon bought Twitter. Now, was everyone rejoicing that he bought Twitter, or were they calling him an idiot? Now, he also owns a major portion of a company which everyone now knows, ChatGPT. Okay? ChatGPT is the largest AI program out there. How does AI get better? It learns through conversations, and conversations are inaccurate, are imperfect, because they're from us, human beings. Hey, buddy, yeah, I'd love to do it. Right on. All of that kind of words, are not perfect grammar, but they are language. What is the largest holder of human interaction communication? Twitter. He bought Twitter. He bought the largest assets of that communication. Everyone wanted to throw sting. Do you think he lost sleep over you yelling? Do you think it upset him because they posted memes on Wi-Fi up on Twitter itself and on Facebook and stuff that he's an idiot? No, because we focus on going for stupid, and everyone that we revere, everyone that we want to be like, has stood up above the noise.
Yeah.
So we always focus on going for stupid. I'll be blunt with you. There are thousands of times that we've gone, hey, you want to do this? Let's do that. And we failed. But if we aim the arrow 2 miles above the target and we fail to hit that new 2-mile target, and we only hit the 1 mile above target, we are far in excess of what we would originally have settled for.
Yeah.
So that go for stupid mentality is, if you're working to pay off your mortgage in 10 years, try to go for 5 years, fail and pay it off in 6. If you want to earn $250,000, set up a structure to make $500,000 and fail at 350.
Yeah. 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 Love it, Steve. Love it. I think this is very much about thinking about your dream, and I guess not thinking about all the problems, reframing such that you see things in a positive light. But what I'm also sensing with you in this conversation is that actually going for these dreams and going for stupid should be more effortless than fighting for it. And
we play.
Yeah.
You know, your kids are always happier when they're playing rather than they're fighting.
Yeah.
And we're told things like grow up, know your lane, stick to your lane, know your place, stay a child. I'm 57 years old, and my wife always says that she's nice to me. She says I'm a 55-year-old 5-year-old. And she's always said that because I want to have that childlike curiosity.
Yeah.
The one thing that I know, I was doing an event the other day and we had Jay Abraham there, and he says he's always curious about how other people do it, whether it be right or wrong. What was the creation behind you trying? You know, and he's always curious. And I've noticed some of the most powerful people in the planet are curious. Now, we all want to know the answer. We want to know the structure. It doesn't have to be the only answer. I want you to play with it. Again, if you think it's hard, it will be. If you think it can't be done, it won't be. If you think it's impossible, you're right. So why don't we play with it and see where it goes?
Yeah. So saying what a lot of this is mindset.
Do you know, it's 100% mindset. The one thing that I learned when I was actually communicating in my very, very early stages was that I couldn't get up richer. I couldn't get up wealthier. I couldn't get up fitter, but I could get up smarter from that chair. When I'm talking to someone and they turn around and go, well, it depends how you see things. I'll give you an example. You know, I've heard it called this a psychological experiment. I've heard called many, many different things. I call it the yellow car, but you know, there's been handbags, all these different things. When you're on a shopping mall, okay, you're in a shopping mall, you're kicking around, or you're in a garage or something like that, or you're walking around the street, and you see this car, and it's a weird color. Maybe it's a yellow, you know, and you're like, I've never seen that color car before. Who the hell buys that color car? When you're driving home, what's the only color car you can see on the road?
It's
that one. Yeah, it's that yellow. As an entrepreneur, if we see negativity, noise, distraction, hatred, what's the only thing we can see? But if we see opportunity, what's the only thing we can see? Now, we went through COVID. Here's a little fact for you, and it actually came out of the BBC. There were over 5 million first-time millionaires registered during COVID. Over 5 million first-time millionaires. So let's break that down. During the worst time of our lives, not said by me, by a lot of people, in the only worldwide catastrophe the human race has ever had since the meltdown. Bearing in mind, world wars have never attacked every single country. There's been countries out of the world wars during those periods, but this was the only time in our lives as human beings, where you could have cold called any country in the planet and gone, hey, how's COVID affecting you? And you would have got an answer. So in the biggest extreme, the pandemic, over 5 million people turned around and went, do you know this could be an opportunity for growth?
Yeah.
Why is it in the worst? Not in the .com explosion, not in the real estate explosion, not in the crypto, Bitcoin, and NFT explosion. None of those times have we ever had over 5 million first-time millionaires. But in the biggest pandemic, we've had over 5 million. That's because people need to ask themselves, was this done to me or was it done for me? And that simple question will allow you to reframe what's going on. Are you in a shitty job? Great. Because now you need to get out of it. Are you being paid well, but you have clients you don't like? Great. You know the problem. You've got a service because you're obviously making money. Now try and get the clients that you want rather than the ones you're getting. So look at reframing everything that you're in. And I do that all the time. When I've lost businesses, when I've lost property, and of course, it's like on every entrepreneur, it's a zigzag, there's been highs and lows, and, I don't know how long this high will last, but it's the education that you get from this that's the gold. It's like going to a lottery winner and asking them if they can teach you about financial advice. They don't bloody know. They bought a ticket.
Yeah.
But that education you get from the shit you go through, when it hits you again, and it will, that education is going to get you to the next step. And we're like elastic bands. We never get back to that original financial benefit or that financial plateau. We exceed it because that education so we get better and bigger and stronger. So that mentality is something that you can literally have from getting up off that seat. And I'm telling anyone out there, start being more curious, be aggravated about what you're going through, and challenge yourself to change your mindset to, was this done for me or to me?
Yeah. Love it. Love it. And I love the point there about reframing. It's something I always myself always talk about. I had a client last year call me up who had really struggled with negative mindset, confidence, and she called me up to say, out of the blue, said, Chris, I was thinking about you 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I needed to call you up and explain why. And I said, yeah. And she said, what it was I was watching my house burn down when I thought, what would Chris Cooper have said to me right now? Would have told me to reframe. So she said, I reframed that I never liked those carpets anyway. And thank goodness my car wasn't there. And thank goodness that no one was in it. And I can always replace a house. And she said, Chris, I'm at a hotel now and I'm dealing with it.
Yeah.
That to me, so that's enough for some people to take them down a deep, dark hole and be completely unproductive. Do you think
there's always the addiction to what we know? And whether we like it or not, whether we're in a bad relationship, whether we're in a bad job, whether we're in a financial commitment, it's, better the devil you know. And I that's another statement I hate. But yeah, you need to reframe and go, exactly. Do you know, I didn't like that house. You look around your house all the time, and I try to have a very minimalist kind of life, because I look around and go, do I want all that clutter?
Yeah.
But over the years, not only do your shelves get cluttered, but so does your head with bad habits.
Yeah. Do you think the pandemic, one of the benefits from the pandemic, once you got over that, the sort of scariness, uncertainty of it, was we had time to think, and we often don't spend enough time thinking about our lives, what we want, thinking about our dreams. And do you think that we had that space to enable us to think? And some people very smartly decided to think about how to improve their lives. And I just found it a very creative time.
I think people that didn't opportunize COVID have lost the biggest opportunity of their life. Now, there's other opportunities, and I hate to go, oh, you missed out. There's always COVID was a phenomenal opportunity. Absolutely phenomenal. There was never, ever a time when not only could you not do the business that you were currently doing, but nor could your competitors.
Oh.
You see, the trouble is today we look at it and we go, right, I've been marketing like this. I don't want to market like that anymore, but I can't change my marketing because my competitors are still marketing and I can't lose out on that momentum. COVID gave us the chance to stop the ship mid-ocean and turn it around.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, I always ask, look, if you go back 5 years and speak to your person, would you be happy where you are now? Because sometimes we go off trajectory, we go off into a different path, and we're doing stuff that we really didn't want to be doing, but we just ended up here. COVID gave us the brilliant time to realign. I shut down 2 companies during COVID. I realized that my effort was worthless and I could be putting that effort in something else. COVID was fantastic for that. You mentioned my second book, Go for Stupid. I've already pointed out, and we pointed out when we were off camera, I didn't enjoy writing my first book. The last thing I wanted to do outside of grow a full head of hair was write a second book. Never wanted to do that. But I was so pissed off with the way people were actioning about COVID. They were all there going, oh, I can't connect. I can't reach out to people. I can't meet all of my friends. You know, I can't go to the gym. That fat ass wasn't going to the gym before COVID. No. This was the period of excuses. And let's be serious. We've got really bad at communicating the second MySpace was invented and Friendster and then Facebook and Twitter. Do you remember the old days? And I'm not trying to glorify it, but you had a baby, you phoned your mates, the mates came over, they were having a cigarette, they were drinking some whiskey, looking at the baby, going, hey, baby, cheers. And they would celebrate. Now what happens? Someone has a baby. By midday, they've shoved a picture of it up on Facebook and they're devastated if they don't have 1 million hits.
Yeah.
We've outsourced our communication to banners and flyers.
Yeah.
And so we've become really bad at it. The people that are really excelling today have realized that that's not communication. And I hated it so much. And I also hated the way during the pandemic, we invented 2 cultures. We invented the gotcha society and the cancel culture. Both of those societies were invented in a period of time when we couldn't communicate. And we had people sitting at home, scrolling through the websites, finding that you dressed up as a penguin in 1995 and how disrespectful that is to the community of penguins. Oh, yeah. Let's cancel your business.
Yeah.
And we did that. And so I wrote Go for Stupid because everyone that was doing things wasn't hearing that noise, wasn't tuning into that frequency of poor mentality. And I'd said to you before, and I'll say it forever, poor people are really noisy. And there's a lot of them. And so I wrote the book to try and get people to change the way they did things, focus on relationships, focus on the achievement of goals by going for a playful dream. And I wrote the book. It did really well, blah, blah. And then I had to do the audio book, which you naturally have to do. I hate audiobooks. So I actually not hate listening to them. I hate doing them because you're in a tiny little box scrolling through your own book. I ended up borrowing a friend of mine's movie studio and actually filmed it in the movie studio. So it was a lot more open. And some of it I actually filmed holding my old fashioned while I was actually reading the book. And free of charge, if you go to goforstupid.com, you can watch the book for free. Yeah. You don't even have to buy the damn thing. I just didn't know what to do with the videos, so I just put them up there for anyone else to consume, hoping that you were going to change the way you focused on your goals and your relationships.
Fantastic. We've just got a couple of minutes till I need to finish this, Steve. But you, if you go there, you can also find it on your website about simsdistillery.com. And you've got your podcast, stevedsims.com. And your book, which I've also just signed up for as well to watch in my sort of gaps and time, because I've loved this conversation today. It's been really energizing, and I think what I'm taking out of this conversation is that there's a lot of mindset reprogramming that people need to do to go for stupid. But also what I sense with you too is in parallel to that, you've also developed a lot of skills with people, with your communication, because you're a very engaging communicator. You really draw you in. So I think there's a lot to learn, not only about from Steve's philosophies, but looking at the way Steve's going about things, and achieving things. But Steve, do you have a final message you'd like to leave us with today?
You've been very complimentary about my ability to communicate, but my ability to communicate started off by me not being able to communicate. If you want to be able to ask great questions in order to get great answers, start by asking bad questions. Let yourself off the hook. You may not be a brilliant communicator, but I dare you today, start up a conversation with someone in a coffee shop or at the bus stop or walking down the road. Just start having conversations. Your communication will get better, like every muscle, the more you utilize it.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And actually taking yourself outside of your norm, that's what you're doing there. You're
Yeah.
by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and making what might seem unnatural natural. Extending your impacts. I remember once doing this and speaking to an entire carriage of people on the underground when it terrified me, but just to push myself out of that zone. And it's one of the best things I ever did. It actually ended up changing my life, actually.
Well, probably one of the biggest surprises for people is that I'm an introvert. You know, like you say, you've got to push yourself into environment. That's why I like riding motorcycles. No one can talk to me.
Yeah.
So I like my alone time with my dogs sitting up here in the hills. So, you know, don't sit here going, well, it's easy for him. Nothing's easy until you repeatedly do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve, been an absolute pleasure today. Thank you so much for joining us. And what we're going to do, I'm going to start putting some of these onto YouTube as well. So we'll have Steve at some point in the next few weeks will appear on YouTube. So you'll be able to watch this as well as listen to it. On next week's show, we've got Craig Kleeman. Craig's also, in some ways, reminds me a little bit of Steve in that he's a unique character. He's chosen to be himself. So he's into his rock music. So he's got his long hair. He's been involved with events with big rock bands and things as well. But we're going to talk about blueprint for a magnificent personal brand next week. So do join us for that. If you've got any questions or comments, chris@chriscooper.co.uk. Do check us out. Do recommend us to your friends, your connections, and Steve's work as well, because you can learn a lot from Steve. Take care, everybody. Go away and have a think right now about how to go for stupid and what that means for you. What does that mean? How far can you push your dream and your vision and make it happen? There is a lot more out there ready and waiting for you if only you open your mind to it and start acting. Take care, everybody. And once again, a big thank you to Steve Sims.